I made almost every mistake possible when it came to getting my residency here in Uruguay, so lucky for you, you don't have to do the same and you can learn from my mistakes. Residency in Uruguay, and then eventually your national ID card or Cédula. If you know anything about Uruguay, this Cédula card is everything. Until you get residency and until you get this Cédula, you do have a lot of barriers to face in order to access local life. Uruguayans use their Cédula for everything. You get discounts at supermarkets or points rewards. You can access certain online shopping like Mercado Libre, which is really helpful, and you cannot use without a Cédula. So not only is it helpful for things like getting jobs, banking, renting apartments, it's also for little everyday things like discounts and online convenience. But how do you get a Cédula? Well, residency here in Uruguay is both simple and fast, but also weirdly complicated and convoluted. I have this theory, and some of my friends who now work in the industry agree with me, that the Uruguayan residency process is more or less set up in a way that encourages foreigners to hire a service to complete it. Can you do it on your own? Absolutely. However, in all of the foreigners I've met, and I have several businesses that all revolve around meeting foreigners, I have only met one person, one foreigner, who wasn't married to a Uruguayan, who didn't have Uruguayan ancestry or didn't have someone here to help them, who completed the process completely on their own. So is it possible? Yes. Am I going to break down in today's video what you have to do to get residency and all the documents you need? Yes. Does this mean that the process will be easy? Not necessarily. So, all of that to say that myself and my husband, alongside with several other professionals, are actually now running our own business where we do help people with this exact issue of helping them get their residency, as well as providing certain tours of Uruguay and helping with everyday things that new incoming foreigners just will need a little bit of extra help with. So if after watching this video you think, wow, that's not that bad, I think I can definitely do that on my own, all the more power to you and good luck. However, if after watching this video you decide that you would like a little bit of extra help, or you just simply don't want to waste your time struggling through the process on your own, then let us know. All the information for my Uruguay relocation tours, etc. will be in the description box. You can contact this number on WhatsApp or head over to the Instagram and chat to us over there. There'll be the Instagram, WhatsApp, and the email linked in the description box, so contact down there if you like. There are of course other relocation services available. Many of them are far more expensive, because something you will find about Uruguay is Uruguayans love to assume that foreigners have a lot more money than they do, and in some cases this is true, but I myself, as a foreigner who moved here without much financial support, I believe in offering affordable prices to people who are maybe moving here for political reasons, or maybe you're a younger couple who don't have a lot of savings, or maybe you just simply don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a residency process that isn't necessarily worth that amount of money. So no shade to anyone else out here who is offering similar services, but that's all I'm going to say about that. Today, let's break down what the residency process here in Uruguay involves and what documents you are going to need. When it comes to the documents themselves, I highly recommend to anyone, whether you are attempting to file for residency on your own or if you're using a professional, put every single thing you have into a little folder, keep it all together, and bring it all with you, because there are certain things that need to be in very specific formats, and it's just better to have it all together in one go, and then when you get to your appointment, they will tell you, yes, I need that, no, I don't need that. Put it all together in a folder, bring the whole folder with you. Now, in terms of what goes into the folder, some of these documents do need to be collected from your home country. So whether you gather these all together before you even hop on the plane to come to Uruguay in the first place, or if you have a trusted parent, sibling, or lawyer, someone you can converse back and forth with to request certain things get apostolized and then mailed to you here in Uruguay, that is definitely something that will be necessary, but more on that when we get to the specific documents later on. And then finally, there are other documents or other processes that you will need to do here in Uruguay before going to the appointment. So we'll get to that at the end. Now, what is the residency process? When it comes to booking the appointment, you want to go to the government website, 𝒊𝒏𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒈𝒓𝒂𝒎 is how they'd say it here. You want to go to this website, head to Trámites y Servicios, and then type in Residencia, and that is where you will find the residency format. There are two main types that I believe people watching this video would be applying for. What I applied for was Residencia, but through Vinculo Uruguayo, meaning that I had a pathway of a Uruguayan. So whether that is like a parent, a family member, or a spouse, my husband is legally a Uruguayan, so he was my Vinculo Uruguayo, and because of that, one or two of the documents that you require are different for the Vinculo Uruguayo versus the regular permanent resident. So most people watching this would be applying for Residente Permanente, which is just permanent residence. Once you've selected your pathway, which residency you are applying for, then it will list all the requirements, and then you can go to actually begin the process. There will be dates available to select. These are typically 3 to 4 months in advance. So this process is not typically something you can do immediately upon arriving in Uruguay. It does take a little bit of time because they want you to be in the country when you book the appointment. The workaround for this, if you want to get this done faster, is to hire a professional. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you do that or don't do that. I'm just saying if you are in a rush or you want to get this done faster, going through the professional route is absolutely going to help you do it faster. Also, people who do this for a profession tend to know when new appointments get released. When appointments do get backed up and there's like a much longer wait time before getting appointments, people who do this professionally tend to get like tips on, okay, today at 9 p.m. or today at midnight, more appointments will become available. So keep an eye on the websites, things like that. So that is when hiring a professional will really save you time, effort, and get things done faster. But again, you can technically do all of this on your own. You would just need to be in Uruguay at the time, because if you can't pay using a Uruguayan bank card for the appointment, you can go to a local 𝒊𝒏𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒈𝒓𝒂𝒎 center, take out cash, and pay at the 𝒊𝒏𝒔𝒕𝒂𝒈𝒓𝒂𝒎 with your cash. And then your appointment is secured, ready to go. And then in the time that you have to wait for your appointment is when you would do all of your translations and things of the documents, so that then when the appointment day comes, you can show up to your appointment with everything you need in your neat little folder and you'll be ready to go. Now, once you go to the appointment and you bring all your documents with you, assuming that everything is good, everything is in the correct format, you have no problems, you are officially, after that appointment, a resident in trámite. Trámite meaning in progress, and then you'll be waiting for an email that says, yay, fully approved, good job. Once you are in trámite is when you can officially apply for the Cédula. So again, technically you could book your residency appointment for Tuesday and then book your Cédula appointment for a couple days later, and assuming that all your documents are correct and you go to your appointment and all is good, you could then go to your Cédula appointment really quickly after and get it all done quite quickly, and then you would get a Cédula, again, in trámite or temporal. They're not going to give you the full official one. That comes when all the paperwork is fully finalized, but still, once you get the Cédula, you have your photo taken, you have your official government number, then that opens many pathways. So that is essentially the process in the simplest forms of how to get your residency and get your Cédula. Do things always go to plan? No. Many times people will show up to appointments and not have one document, that they needed. Maybe it doesn't have the apostilled stamp they required. Maybe it's not translated. Maybe they've just forgotten something. You know, it almost always one thing will be missing, and then you'll have to make another appointment, wait several months. It can drag the process out a little bit. Now that I think about it, an additional warning is that during this process, if you go to your appointment on your own, you've not hired anyone to help you, there is a chance that if they don't believe your Spanish is of a high enough level to fully understand what's going on, that they will not help you out and they will turn you away, make you book another appointment, wait weeks or months for the next appointment, and then come back with a translator. And that is something that is not necessarily listed very clearly on the website, and is something you will only know if you ask around. So I've known people who had all the documents prepared, showed up to their appointment, and then were turned away because the person working at the office did not believe that their Spanish was high enough to be signing the documents on their own. Keep that in mind, and this is another reason why, in my opinion, again, I was saying this long before we ever started actually doing this ourselves, but I have always said that if you do have the money to hire a professional, I highly recommend it, because there are so many parts of this process where things could go wrong, where you could miss a stamp, miss a document, miss a translation, or simply they just don't believe that you have a high enough Spanish, and the process will be a lot simpler, a lot faster, a lot cheaper in the long run, if I'm totally honest, if you do hire someone to help you. But if all goes smoothly, it can be done fairly quickly. Now, in terms of what documents you need to bring with you to these appointments, let's start out with all the documents you need to collect in your home country, because yeah, it's best to do this before you even get on the plane. But if, like me, you didn't plan this far ahead, I was able to call my mom and be like, hey mom, can you apostolize my birth certificate and then mail it to me? And you know, we managed to work our way around my lack of planning. But if you can plan ahead using this information, it will save you a lot of time. So I'm first going to read out the documents with the local name, what they will ask for in Uruguay, and then tell you what that actually means. Documento de identidad. This is just your ID. Most of the time, this would be a passport. That is absolutely essential. You need to bring that with you on the first appointment. I'm going to list all of the documents, and I definitely recommend you just bring everything with you on the first appointment. Technically, some of these documentation can be submitted later, but if you want to get things done quicker, I just recommend having it all with you in one go, showing up at the appointment with it. But your passport is something that they will not even see you if you don't bring your passport with you. So passport is something that of course comes from your home country. Next, Certificado de Antecedentes Penales. This is a criminal record. You will need a criminal record from every country you've lived in during the last 5 years, as long as you've lived there for more than 6 months. So if you live somewhere for 3 to 4 months, that's more considered just like a vacation. But if you stay for more than 6 months, then that counts as living somewhere, and you will need to get a criminal record from that country. If it's from the US, this is a FBI style police clearance. If it's from a different country, then, you know, whatever the equivalent is, comment below what country you are from, and I can try to work out what that would be. Or again, work with a professional and they'll be able to give you much more information on exactly what type of police clearance you are required to have. Next is partida de matrimonio, or a marriage certificate. This is only for people who, one, are married, and two, want to apply for their residency as a married couple. That means they will be like legally recognized as a married couple here in Uruguay, and it just like does everything at the same time. If you are married, I definitely recommend doing it, like bringing your marriage certificate to have it all filed together. The only thing is that your marriage certificate needs to be less than 1 year old. So if you got married more than a year ago, you will need to go and request a new marriage certificate so that when you arrive to the appointment, it is less than 1 year old. Okay, next is Certificado de Vacunas, or vaccination records. This, again, is something that most people will have from their childhood. Get a hold of this and you'll be good to go. I will have the list up on the screen of what vaccines you are required to have. This is actually something that I was unable to get access to, or was just really complicated for me to access because I was doing this during COVID and there was no mail going between Uruguay and Australia at the time. So instead of having my mum, one, find my childhood vaccine records, and then two, somehow get it mailed to me when there was no mail happening, I actually just went to a local vaccination clinic and they redid my vaccines for free. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that you do the same. I am just saying that if you either were never vaccinated for some of these things as a child, or you're unable to get your vaccination records, there is a way around it, but that way around it is just becoming vaccinated here in Uruguay. It was free, and they told me it was not harmful to be revaccinated, so I just said, sure, jab me again. It would be the simplest solution, and then I was good to go. Okay, partido de nacimiento. This is your birth certificate. This is especially important for minors. So if you are doing a residency application for anyone under the age of 18, they need to have this birth certificate with them at that first appointment. I still recommend that everyone have it with them, get it all together, keep it all together. You do need it at some point, so might as well do it from the get-go. But a birth certificate is especially appointment for minors, but is also required for adults as well. Another thing that is potentially necessary is a name change document. This, of course, is not going to be necessary for every single person, but if you have changed your name due to transitioning, or if you've gotten married, or for whatever reason your current legal name no longer matches your birth certificate, then bring a name change document as well, just to be safe. Okay, this last one is necessary only for people who are doing the permanent residency and not the Vinculo Uruguayo, and that is medios de vida, or a means of life. It is asking specifically about your job, your income, so whether you have a foreign job remotely, whether you have a local job in Uruguay, or if you are retired. It's looking at your bank statements, your employment contract, things like that. There are lawyers, abogados, here in Uruguay who will get you your means of life certificate, who will sign off on your means of life. However, the paperwork that they need in order to get the means of life approved often does come from your employment, which if that is in your home country, then that is also something that will be easier to prepare or to start gathering all the documents for before you come here to Uruguay. Again, this is something that is not necessary if you are applying as a Vinculo Uruguayo. I did not need to prove any means of life because I'm married to a Uruguayan, but if you are not, then this is a part of the process. That is the final document that is needed from your home country or your previous country of residence, and all documents that are non-Uruguayan will need to be apostilled in the country of origin. And then when you are here in Uruguay, if they are not already in Spanish, they will need to be translated into Spanish by a translator who is approved by the Uruguayan government. This, I believe, is not necessary if you are coming from Brazil and your documents are in Brazilian Portuguese. However, I'm assuming that most people watching this video are coming from English-speaking countries, or at least, countries where English is more prevalent than Portuguese. So you will need to have your documents translated while in Uruguay. Finally, there are two more things that are needed in order to get your residency and then eventually get your cédula. One of them is a carnet de salud vigente. This is a physical health checkup. That's what they call it here. It's a carnet de salud. It's essentially a physical checkup at there are specific clinics you can go to where you can get your carnet de salud. It's a physical checkup of certain things, run the tests, they weigh you, check your eyesight, certain things like that, and then we'll sign off on your carnet de salud, and then that is also necessary for applying for residency. The final item is a lot quicker and easier to get a hold of, and it is a photo carnet. This essentially is just a passport style photo. So you can go to several locations to just go in, get a little headshot done, they will print them out, and you need to take a physical one of these physical little photos with you to your appointment, and they will like stamp that into your documentation file just to be like, oh, this is the same person, it all matches the name and the documents, and you know, that is necessary for the residency process. Everything we've talked about previously was required for the permanent residency. If, like myself, you have a partner who is Uruguayan, or for whatever other reason you're applying as a Vinculo Uruguayo, you do not need the medios de vida. That is not a requirement. However, instead of that, you will need to be proving your relationship status to the Uruguayan. In my case, it was my marriage certificate. I did get married here in Uruguay, so that document did not need to be translated or apostilled because it was a Uruguayan document. But of course, if you married a Uruguayan not in Uruguay, then you will need to take those processes with that document as well. And then additionally to your own photo ID, you will need to bring your Uruguayan's ID as well. So I had to provide my passport as well as my husband's either passport or national identity card at the time of the appointment. But otherwise, all of the documents needed for both pathways are the same. And once again, all documents, I'm just translating this from what they've got here written on the website, all foreign documents presented at the appointment must be either apostilled or legalized and then translated into Spanish by a public Uruguayan translator, with the exception of immigrants from Brazil. So keep that in mind, that with all documents, if they are not Uruguayan documents, they do need to be apostilled or legalized and then additionally translated here in Uruguay. So do not translate your documents in the US or in Australia or wherever you're coming from. Wait until you get to Uruguay and then translate them here. So in summary, what you're going to need to do is collect a whole lot of documents from your home country and have them apostilled or legalized in your home country or previous country of residence. When you then arrive in Uruguay, you will need to get a physical health checkup and get a passport photo taken, and also will need to translate all of your documents using a public Uruguayan translator. In terms of how you find the translator who is Uruguayan government approved, if you are working with a professional, myself included, they should be able to refer you on to someone. If not, I'm sure there are places online where you can search up translators who are qualified in this. I would just, if you're looking at translators, I would say, hi, I want my documents translated specifically for the residency process. Can you do this? Yes or no? And then go from there. Now, while I am totally aware that the residency process here in Uruguay is absolutely not as complicated as it is in many other places, Australia included, there are tricks here and there that you simply will not know if you are a foreigner or if this is your first time doing the process. For example, when new appointments become available, typically professionals will hear about this ahead of time, and then the newly made appointments get taken up like that. So with things like that, or with accessing professionals, or finding out where to go to get your carnet de salud, or where to go to get your means of life approved, having the contacts for these things, if you were to work with a professional such as myself, they would be able to point you in the right direction of which professionals to go to for these certain steps and who is approved and trusted, and it will make things a lot simpler. But that is going to be it for today. Start gathering all your documents if that is your plan. Put them in a folder and bring everything with you every time, just in case. I hope this video was helpful in answering any of your questions about what documents are required. If you do have more questions, please comment down below. If you found this interesting or helpful, a thumbs up goes a long way in helping the channel to grow. But that is it for today. Thank you for watching and good luck with your residency. Yeah, like baby. Excelencia. Y yo estoy pendiente a ti, de que tú llegaste a mí. Me tienes loco como tú te mueves. Yo no sé si hoy te atreves. Vamos a